Rental part right here? I think we can only go that far though. Yeah.
I am not.
I do that. You can do that.
Well, if you want to put this in mind. Thank you.
Certainly.
As long as here, we were socially distancing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's, yes. Is 7 item ready? Scott, you ready for us? All right, okay.
Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 14th Board of Supervisors meeting. We'll start with some announcements. In accordance with Resolution 2-2012, you're informed that Scott Stilson, Vincent Drive, is recording tonight's meeting for posting on YouTube. And this meeting is also going to be available and being recorded electronically on the Zoom platform. We'll
Do
move.
we have any?
Karen Custer Force is on Zoom. I see her in there. She's been admitted.
Okay. We'll move on to the open forum for action items on the agenda. For anybody that's in person here, if anybody has any comments for any item that's on the agenda. Anybody on Zoom have any comments?
I do not see it.
Okay. Move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Next, department reports. Don Johnson, Public Works Director.
All right, Don is not here, but he did provide me with his report for the month. Currently, our mowing is making its final rounds through the municipality, cutting back the right-of-ways. The road department also fixed ditches, and they put a storm sewer outlet and cross pipe on Beaver Dam Road. We will be paving Beaver Dam Road between Route 10 and Tel High, August 19th, 20, and 21st. Once that's completed, they still have to do some stormwater work on Beaver Dam Road and Supply. So we have some stormwater projects there, and then another project actually in the township building here in the park.
What are those dates? Beaver Dam Road.
August 19th, 20th, and 21st. So they actually have already milled the road, so now we are, just got our PennDOT approval, so we'll be laying down asphalt Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
The sign posted says it's September 12th.
So that was, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Don wrote August, yeah. He means September. We're all off the month, so. Next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Beaver Dam. They will be letting school buses, the mail carrier, first responders through, but they're gonna ask everyone else for those 3 days, follow through the, before stay. That's all Don has.
All right, thank you. Christy Deisher-Eddy.
I have her report as well. She had written it down for me, because I just submit mine. Brook Community Partnership News is, Harmony Day is finally this Saturday. It will be going from 8 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Brook Fire Company Fairgrounds, which is located at 687 Firehouse Lane in the borough. You can find full details at the Brook Partnership website, or you can pick up a flyer in the lobby of the township building. Secondly, Barb White, she's the current president of the Honeybrook Historical Society, spoke about the upcoming plans for the 250-year celebration of the United States at the August partnership meeting. She is partnering with the Heritage Preservation Coordinator in Westchester to begin planning in 2023. It will take approximately 3 years to complete plans for the event, celebrations, etc., which will occur in 2026. The borough has formed a 3-member committee to work with Barb on this celebration, so if there's board interest, we can look in participating well. I could have Christie reach out to Barb if you'd like.
It said the United States or states?
United States. Collections, Toys for Tots, that's going to start at the Township Administration Building October 1st and runs to the close of business on Thursday, December 8th. At that time, the toys have been dropped off the township. They'll be taken to the collection center for Chester and Montgomery counties. Finally, we made our annual contributions to the fire and ambulance services that we do typically every year. The supervisors this evening will be signing checks, $2,000 to the Twin Valley Fire Department. We provide a donation annually of $55,000 to the Elverson Honeybrook EMS. That is in addition to the $120,000 we set aside from the overage of the ARPA funds, and the $92,000 is going to be going to the Honeybrook Fire Company. And lastly, the township office will be closed to walk-up traffic on Friday, October 7th, as our both administrative staff will be gone, and I will be manning the phones, but I'm pretty useless at the window, so we'll be closed for that day, so I can do some administrative work. And that's all that Christie has.
All right, thank you. Next report would be the manager's report.
Yeah, I'll just ask that you approve and accept the report as is written and is provided into the agenda for the board, and also in the packet that's out there for the community.
All right, thank you. Next is Land Preservation Committee.
We don't have any report. I did note that the Chester County Conservation District said they are working on a few projects that should be coming to the land rep in the next several months for consideration for land preservation uses. Nothing came from Land Trust. They typically do woodland and forestry stuff, so they have had no interest on that end within the township.
Okay, thank you. Planning Commission.
They meet Thursday.
Okay. Recreation and Parks Board.
They have a meeting, I think, the following week, but we don't have any report. I don't think there was a forum at their last Thursday, Mike, or next Thursday?
It's following Thursday.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. That's it for the department reports. We'll move on to new business. First item is the list of bills for payment as prepared by the treasurer.
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is a request for an extension of time. It's estimated. Subdivision number 2022-4 Keith Waters, 411 Brandon Mill Road, tax parcel 22-11-49.4.
This is actually one of the plans that will be reviewed by the planning commission this month. They need an additional extension of time in order for that review to be conducted and then come before you for action. So it's a fairly typical request that they need additional time to address comments by the engineer.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to grant the extension.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is a request for an extension of time for Home Courts Advantage, Keystone Court Land Development, number 2020-3, 2140 Horseshoe Pike, tax parcel number 22-8-85.1B, to November 9th of 2022.
And similar, this is another plan that needs additional time to address comments from our office. We've done a review of the plan already for the expansion, so they're going back and addressing our comments, both not only township issues, but also outside agency issues as well.
Did they go ahead and occupy, so you just move trails in there?
They are switching out some of the older units for newer units, so that's a separate issue, just a permitting issue from our office. This is actually just for the extension in the back of the property.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a waiver request from 22-615.2A by John Stolfus, 180 Beaver Dam Road. Tax parcel numbers 28-8-102 and 22-8-95.
Is there anyone here tonight for that waiver request, John? No? Just the background, we did discuss this at workshop. This was a notice of violation. That was discovered that there was a driveway put in without a permit. It would be the third driveway that would be located on the parcel. Our ordinance only allows two, therefore they would need relief in order for the driveway to be open. So that's the request that's before you. We offer a recommendation related to this. We don't feel, we wouldn't recommend approval of the waiver, given the fact that they have two workable occupancy points. Generally, more occupancy points create more of a traffic issue, safety issue related to access and circulation. So we would recommend the board act accordingly on the waiver. If you have any questions, I can certainly entertain that. Once you make action, you would then proceed with the enforcement of that issue. If the waiver was not granted, proceed with enforcement at that point.
I have a question. So I went, that turn is actually right down the hill. So it's the paved driveway in front of the new dwelling to the left of the main house. Isn't that the exact one we're talking about?
There's a picture, I believe, in your packet. I have it.
It's actually in between.
It's in between the two access points, yeah. This was, that's what it looked like before. And then the flip side here, that's the new one that they put in between. This is the new one that comes in.
Okay.
Over here, they added this piece over here to get over into this area. So they still have this entrance point right here.
So this is the new one?
Yes, that's the new
Okay.
one, yeah.
So, okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure which one was.
Yeah, they're all proximity to one another. It's
Yes,
has the potential to create an issue for someone trying to figure out how to get in and out.
I agree.
And there's no issue with the original one, with the
No.
phone stand being not
There's
wide
no,
enough.
no, that's right. That can remain, we just need to,
Yes,
if
but
the waiver wasn't granted, we would have them remove that impervious and put it back into a pervious condition, so there's no entrance point.
So the action on this one would be to approve.
I make a motion to not approve the waiver.
I'll second.
In favor of not approving the waiver?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor of not approving the waiver?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Next is a waiver request from section 20-306.1 and J, it's an INJ, for the infiltration bed separation distance to limiting zone for Sweetwater Woodworks, 6430 Emery Road, tax parcel number 22-6-20.
And just for the board, we did go over this at workshop as well. Number 5 and 6 are related. This plan was talked about, discussed at the last planning commission meeting. I believe Mr. Stoltzfus is here tonight if you have any questions. They did review it. This is a rural occupation that's granted zoning approval to increase the size of the building. If you recall, the building had actually burned, so they're reconstructing that, and they got zoning relief for an increased size for the structure under a rural occupation. The second step of that is land development, which is what they're before you tonight for action on. The waiver request is related to the isolation distance between, or the separation distance, excuse me, of a limiting zone to where the stormwater, the bottom of the stormwater facility will be located. Because of the high water table, they can't quite meet the separation of 24 inches. They did have a positive.
6430 Emery Road, tax parcel 22-6-20, contingent upon addressing the items in Technicon's August 22nd, 2022 review letter and widening the existing driveway to the west to meet the 20-foot width requirement, not disturbing the existing tree line.
I believe Mr. Stoltzfus is in agreement with those conditions, is my understanding from the last meeting. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to grant conditional preliminary final plan approval.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is a partial release of funds for Chestnut Ridge, Stage 1, Greason Road, tax parcel number 22-8-52.3 in the amount of $47,065.
What area does that cover? This is stage 1?
This is phase 1 portion, John. This was for the wearing course, the pavement of the spaces near the basketball court area. And also a waiver, or not a waiver, a release of the funds for the Greason Road widening. Yeah, that was done along the shoulder there, along the frontage. That's what those funds are included in that.
And Technicon was out during the road widening.
Yeah, we were out for both the prep of the stone base and then also the paving itself.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a partial release of funds for Chestnut Ridge Stages 2 and 3, tax parcel numbers 22-8-52.5 and 22-8-52.4 respectively in the amount of $57,050.70.
And just for the board's information, this was for work on basin, infiltration basin number 9, phase 2 and 3. And also the internal, there's a section of road that was not completed when the initial paving was done. So we proof rolled that and then that was ready and then paved at that point. So that location was down near the second entrance, which comes off of Chestnut Tree Road. So you can saw that paving that was taking place along there. That was the work that was done in that area.
I'll make a motion for the release of the funds.
I'll second.
All in favor? Next item is a partial release of funds for Honeybrook Estates, also known as Sweetwater Farm, 3531 Horseshoe Pike, tax parcel number 22-7-49.1E in the amount of $131,752.22 for site improvements.
And again, just a brief explanation of that. You saw a lot of work along 322 underway at that development. We spent a lot of time out there. This was for storm sewer piping, demolition and grading work, and also completion of the stormwater management facility. I don't believe it includes the paving of this release, but that'll be occurring. The paving will be forthcoming in a future recommendation. So even though that's complete, we haven't received the release request on that yet. Okay.
Good. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a final release for Peaceful Acres Amish Parochial School, 2600 Cambridge Road, tax parcel 22-6-50 in the amount of $28,957.34 for site improvements.
And this is just for parking, stormwater, and ENS improvements that are associated with that project for the school.
I'll make that motion for approve the release.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a partial release of funds for Yvonne Stoltz's 339 Grandview Circle, tax parcel number 22-8-7.4 in the amount of $34,862.57 for site improvements.
This was a smaller level project that was just for basically stormwater improvements, but also erosion zone control. So those are the releases related to that. You can see we've been pretty busy this month with a lot of different projects. But this is a smaller project that didn't go through the land development process. This just went through the typical stormwater process.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a security release for David Stoltzfus, 513 Todd Road, tax parcel number 22-4-2, in the amount of $7,444.70.
And this was primarily just for ENS controls related to the disturbances that they've done. We're still holding, actually that was the remainder that was being released. The previous installation for the stormwater was under a previous recommendation, so that's already been released.
I'll make the motion to approve the release.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is Resolution 2022-14 to allocate unencumbered funds in the amount of $45,000 for the purchase of a Honeybrook Township administrative vehicle.
So we talked about this at the last month meeting, that vehicles are kind of hard to come by, or the correct vehicle probably won't take more than a couple months. So the board authorized me to purchase a vehicle. Should I find one? I did find one. It should be delivered in the next week. So this is just a resolution to show that we are budgeting properly. So this will just be attaching $45,000 in the capital reserve budget to a vehicle purchase, which hadn't been allocated previously.
And this is replacing a 17-year-old vehicle.
Correct, and the board has said we'll drive it until it doesn't drive, which I think will be February. Yeah, that's when it's next inspection, and it's looking pretty, it's done a good job, but it's time to yes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is Resolution 2022-15, Act 537 Plan Revision for new land development for Horace Howell, 48 Talbotville Road, tax parcel number 22-4-95.
This is a sewage planning module that requires a resolution from the supervisors. The reason for that is because there would be 2 dwelling units on the property. The project came in as a zoning application and it was withdrawn, so now they're drawing it up as an ECHO application, so, which complies with our zoning, but it would need still to go through the sewage planning process with DEP. So once the supervisors act on the motion for the resolution, it goes to DEP and then they do their review of the module, and then ultimately act on that separately. So they'll have review comments and word approval at some point.
For benefit of the audience, echo the Elder Cottage Housing Institute.
That's
I had to
correct.
read it because I know what it is. but
Yeah,
I
I'm
couldn't-
sorry.
I wouldn't know that acronym off the top of my head.
We know our acronyms too much, but yes, that is what it is. Yeah.
And that's a temporary structure.
It's a temporary structure for a family member. It's removed after the family member passes.
Thank you.
I'll allow for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Also for new business, I just want to bring up, go.
Excuse me, before we leave new business, I want to go back to item 2. I just have a question for Mike. This is the Barter plan, and I don't see a specific date for the extension. So I want to know, is that request to a certain date or for a certain number of days?
I don't, let me see if I know.
I think if it's not part of the request, we should clarify.
So number 2 is till November 14th. November 14th.
Yeah, I knew there was a date.
So it's in this letter.
Okay, so it's in the letter.
It's in, yeah, so there's a letter attached. Again, you don't see it on that version, but it is.
Thanks, Warren.
Yes, November 14th, 2022.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So also for new business, we're doing the budget assessment, so I'd like to see if we can do an assessment on our outsourced services and set like every 3 years or something, we do that assessment. If that's something we haven't done. I don't think we don't have to make a motion, I just wanted to bring that up, part of our budget process. Also, another thing that we have a lot of these developments coming in right now, so what I think would be helpful if we had an environmental advisory committee that would be able to work with the board of supervisors as well as for the planning commission. Oftentimes we have to rely on third-party experts, on matters that, we may be more familiar with. So numerous municipalities in Chester County have these environmental advisory committees. It's, either residents or a combination of residents or some experts in the field. So that's something that I would hope that we can consider potentially setting up for 20 and 23.
That would be a new.
It's a new committee.
It would be a new board. Euclid Township has one. My wife, who's now a Euclid Township supervisor, was actually the committee chair for many years since it was implemented. And in Euclid Township, the board, when they get a plan, it also goes, especially for larger plans, goes in the planning commission, but it also gets sent to the environmental action committee. They look at the impact of the environment. The board, I think, currently has a stormwater engineer, someone that does, environmental type professional work. And then they just look at best practices, and then essentially, just like the planning commission makes a recommendation, the EAC would make a recommendation to the planning commission, and then also make a recommendation to the board. So it would just be another guiding group that could provide us some services if the board thinks that, that avenue should be researched, kind of cut out of maybe what just the expert opinions of our professional staff, but also just citizens who could look into best practices on their own, especially if they're interested in that type of, making the community better.
So it could be something we could start next year.
So if the board is interested, I could, if I don't hear any persuasion, I can probably give you an executive summary, maybe get you some information from other townships that currently have environmental action committees, maybe get a couple of their reports on some large projects so you can see kind of what type of work they do. And if you think that would be of benefit to the community and also provide some guidance to the board, then we could create that committee. And again, that would take several months, so as John would indicate, if we would be interested, we would put feelers out and then, set up the board, set up the standards, set up the meetings, give them direction, and then, it would just be meeting like any other board, whether that be quarterly, monthly, as we see fit.
So would that be a separate stormwater management review or in addition to the?
It's not a professional review, it's just kind of like Parks and Rec, right? So they're discussing it, that's their core focus, so anytime, they see something that they would like to go after or could benefit the community, whether that's, turning something in from a mowed lawn into a meadow, they might research state grant programs that are available for that. Or again, when they see a development come in, they can make recommendations of what they think would be a good environmental input, which again, the board can consider, but it would not have anything to do with legal requirements from DEP or anything involving our ordinances, right? So it's merely kind of providing guidance like the Park and Rec does when they say, this is what we think our active spaces look like, this is what we think is a need for that aspect.
In other communities where I've seen these groups work, they respond to questions asked by the governing body, where the governing body says, we would like input on an environmental related question, and they essentially give homework to the environmental advisory committee to research it and provide feedback to the governing body about what that group's thoughts are, or the results of the research, or their recommendations. And so none of that would be binding on you, but it would give you some people who would be committed to doing that legwork, to bring additional information back to you on questions that you would be looking for input on.
So would that be another step in the process if someone was going through land development to wait for an environmental review?
Well, under the procedures of the subdivision land development ordinance, there would not be a recommendation or approval required from the environmental advisory committee. It would be a step where you would, perhaps during the review of a subdivision on land development, say there are questions that we have as a board of supervisors, we'd like more information on that, ask the environmental advisory committee to look into it and get back to you, and then feed that back through you to the planning commission or to the developer directly. So this group would not have, they wouldn't have a procedural ability to affect the approval of the plan, but they would be, again, a body that would report to you and provide information and answers to questions that you might have while you are reviewing subdivision or land development, or you're reviewing a park project, or you're reviewing an infrastructure project of some kind. I mean, anything where you're looking for input on potential environmental issues, you could look to them for help.
Okay, and then do they have like a required turnaround time, like by next month you have these questions answered, report back to us? That's basically how it works in other townships.
Well, that would be up to you to set those parameters.
Okay, and right now, it seems like it's hard to get someone to get on the planning commission, to come up with another board.
I have spoke to some people who have expressed interest. In fact, one person, neighbor of mine, said he has extensive background in environmental issues. He didn't even know that I was even considering that, so it was a good reminder for me. There are some people in the community that actually have a lot to offer, and I think this would be beneficial to a lot of the questions that have been coming up lately.
Did you have as many, how many people?
We would set that guidance, whether it's 5 or, if you want to say 3 or whatever the case might be. Because when we started land preservation, we had the caveat, we said there's could start with 5 and see if we would expand it to 7, but 5 seems to be a workable number.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways you can do it. I know Euclid Township, one of the EAC is on the planning commission as well, so that's how the planning commission kind of gets the input. So that board, that committee member serves on 2 boards, the EAC and the planning, so when it comes time to comment, they don't have to have someone from the EAC show up. You give a report, that planning member will say, like, here's what our EAC says that's on it, and kind of filtrates that into the conversation. Now, they didn't do that initially for a few years. That just happened after the EAC grew. There was more interest. And Euclid has, a larger board where they have some non-voting members on to them. But they had enough interest that they actually had to do a couple rounds of interviewing and pick the best people because they had, 14 or 15 apply for 2 positions open.
And Chester County is already conducting a monthly conference, there's one coming up next Saturday, and then I think there's another one on the calendar for October. This would be a good opportunity if we were interested to find out and consider on that, or I can get copies of the meetings from Rachel Griffin, Chester County Sustainability Director.
I think it's a great idea.
So I'll start doing some research, get back to you in the next.
There's no reason not to.
You can, yes, to explore.
Right.
Get moving.
All right, so I'll gather some research, give you an executive summary back with some information and documents that you can review. And by your positive feedback, then we can start narrowing down what we would like to do at future board meetings to get this moving forward.
That's it for me for new business.
Okay, we'll move on to old business. Continuation, discussion, Brandywine Hospital closure.
I still don't have any additional information, it just kind of is sitting there waiting for some type of movement. But as of yet, the only thing again is that Jennersville has been sold and it's going to be reopening soon. But besides that, there's no more movement that I'm aware of at Brandywine Hospital.
And we'll move to the open forum time for any other matters anybody would like to comment on. Just ask that you come to the microphone, give your name and address.
Robert Stein, 15 Cape Court, Honeybrook. Your conversation now about the environmental group is very timely. I'm the first house in development. My front yard faces Ryan Homes at Chestnut Ridge. For the last 2 years, since they put in the drainage ditch, the retention ponds, we've had seepage into our property. And for the last 2 years, I've had to pay for mosquito control to keep it bearable, we can actually step outside. Going to zoning meetings earlier this year, I was under the impression, I heard it said here, that Ryan has to keep their water on their property. It can't flow to other people's properties. As I left my house tonight, there's a river coming down through our development, going past my yard, and now giving me a pond on my actual property line. That from history, he's going to tell me it's going to take 5 to 6 weeks for it to finally go away. Nobody was notified that they were emptying these retention ponds. I have spoken to Lion and Holt's people who told me that water was considered toxic, and they're going to have to dredge the mud out of there because that's going to have to be taken care of. So now I have all this water going through our Foxbrook development. It's going through the properties, passing 2 houses, going past my house and resting at other houses, but it's actually made a pond now on my property line that's about 40 feet long, and I don't know how deep. And it's sitting there. Now I have toxic water sitting next to my house because Ron doesn't keep the water on their property. This is not something that was supposed to be there. We have now, the last 2 years, because of storms, the water coming through from that retention pond that's emptying into our properties now has actually created a 3-foot deep ditch, about 4 feet wide, 3 to 4 feet wide over the last 2 years. Wasn't there before. I would like somebody to explain to us why they're allowed to drain hundreds of thousands of gallons of water from their property and have it run through our development, where it sits and rests for weeks. Now, am I misunderstanding the zoning committee, where they told me that they don't allow water from some developers to go to another development, that that's not allowed? Just gonna happen again? It said they're gonna drain, why do they drain it literally into our property?
Can I talk to you after the meeting?
You talk many times.
Okay, if you hang around, I will talk to you once the meeting's done.
But again, the environmental committee could have addressed something like this, saying you cannot allow stormwater sitting in a retention pond, has no aeration, and is not fenced, which I didn't even think was legal. When you have 2 acres of water there, it's unfenced as a retention pond. I thought it had to be fenced in, unless it dries. You're shaking your head, so I don't know.
No, I think we'll talk after.
We'll talk afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
But why is this being allowed? This is why we have problems with some of these developments.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark Hagel, 215 Caitlin Court. I'm also in Foxbrook. I was told the other day that our development came under a discussion at a workshop regarding some possible parkland or something like that. And I wanted to come and introduce myself, not just to enjoy your company this evening, but I'm on the board for the Homeowners Association. And I would just like to say that if we're talking about Foxbrook, we would like to be involved in the conversation. We'd like to know what's going on with that. We certainly have plenty of ideas ourselves, but we also don't want to get a letter in the mail saying, effective tomorrow, we're taking 2 acres from you. So I just wanted to bring that up, introduce myself again. I think you have our contact information. I can give you that after the meeting as well, just so that you have it.
Yeah, I will talk to you afterwards and get that information. Thank you, because I'm sending you a letter, but not like that.
Okay,
Not that at all.
all right.
Thank you.
And why isn't the answer given during this meeting? Why is it going to be after the meeting? Why?
So this is public comment, right? So it's not a question and answer. We kind of discussed this before. The point being is, I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody. This is a public comment meeting.
Okay.
And as I've said in the past, when board members here make a decision to approve or not approve, that's based upon weeks, days, hours, years of administrative work that I do with my staff and their professional services, doing research, doing all kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff that, the board takes under advisement. The board packet, the information that you don't see, they typically get a 200-page report they have to read from me every single week, right? So for someone to ask a question of a board member and expect an immediate answer when it has to be well-researched is just not appropriate. So again, this is a comment period, but I will repeat myself I've been here for 10 months. You can call, you can stop in, you can see me, I'll talk to you, I'll come out to your house, answer your questions, address your concerns, email, Zoom, in person, and I've yet to have actually one person take it up on me, because there's questions that just are back and forth and involve a lot of.
Just a side note, what Warren was saying, it wouldn't be the first time that we had a township manager go out, to one of the residents' homes. In fact, that happened to me, when I first moved here in Huntingburg Township. So we had about 20 of our neighbors packed into my house to meet with our township manager, because we had a list of things that were occurring in our development, and that was one way to get a lot of those questions answered.
Okay.
My name is Jason Williams. I live at 3561 Horseshoe Pike, directly adjacent to Sweetwater Farms, what used to be Honeybrook Estates. And I'm a little aware of the history that went on there. I'm going to be losing 3 feet of my front yard thanks to that place. I know there was a long, drawn-out legal battle over it. What I do know is that the original plans called for 78 row houses in that development, with the entrance going down what's my driveway. And it's going to be 37 single-family homes. It's going to be smaller than expected. They have another entrance, close by, that doesn't affect the wetlands there on the property. And the former owners, before Rouse Construction bought the place, the former owners tried to sue the widow who lives in that immediate property and take away her driveway and much of her front yard. That didn't happen. I guess my point being is that we don't have to roll over and die for everything that these developers want or demand. There can be compromises along the way. And that's maybe a glass half full situation that I'm next to, but it could have been a lot worse. We're dealing with these developers that we're dealing with, they would knock over Independence Hall or put the wrecking ball in the tomb of the unknown soldier if you gave them the chance. If we don't look out for our township, nobody else is going to. They'll just roll right over us and go off trash another area when we're stuck with the flooding and the crime and the congestion and everything else. That's it.
Thank you.
Is there any other additional comments?
Karen, do you have any comments? You're on Zoom. I know you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
I can, Karen.
Okay, couple questions. I agree with Jason. Why should we have to give up our property that we earned and worked so hard for to have a stinking turning lane into a development that we never wanted? I know it's called eminent domain, and I frankly call BS on it. Secondly, Chestnut Ridge, wants to do phase 2, phase 3, what I gather, has all the phase 1 been done, as far as like the park and rec and all that kind of stuff, before they move on, because they tend to like start something and then not finish what they're doing. Thirdly, as far as the township park is concerned, that is to be only used for township matters, correct? Like going to the post office, going to Westchester. It is not to be used by any of the officials as far as like taking it home or bringing it back or anything like that. Am I correct with that?
Karen, it's comment only. If you want to talk to me again, like I said, please call me and we can discuss it in.
You know what? I can do that. Are you available at 4:30 in the morning?
Yes.
Because I gotta go to work at 5 in the morning, or how about 1 o'clock in the morning?
Sure.
When I get home.
Okay.
But all I'm stating is that, instead of running that car into the ground, why don't you donate it to the Purple Heart for people that need a car to get around, instead of trying to get it for scrap money? That's my comment. That's it.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something. It's a positive thing.
Can I get your name? I'm sorry, ma'am.
Jennifer D'Angelo, 2475 Cambridge Road.
Oh, email. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I want to say kudos to the road guys with what they're doing with the township roads versus PennDOT's roads. If you look at Cambridge Road, which we live on, it's a state road, and there's potholes, and it's just crappy. With the township roads, that's Mill Road, Walnut Street, they look really good, and they do a good job of mowing the side and cleaning up the trash. So I just want to, acknowledge their efforts with what they did all summer when it was really hot, and they're out there paving roads and chipping
Chip and seal.
chipping oil. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to, praise them for that.
To your point, I have been in contact with State Representative Tim Hennessy. So he did a follow-up call after Route 10 was paved, and I did send him several pictures because already, this was like a month after it was paved, I could see some wear on the road. A lot of it has to do with the horse and buggies, but there were some areas of the road where there's already indentation, which could cause it to break up quickly.
Yeah, and they did a nice job with 10, but it's the side roads like Cambridge and, I don't know what other side roads. So.
Tim Hennessy is still representing us until it switches over, and then Dan Williams will be our representative going forward.
Okay.
But Tim has been the chair of the Transportation Committee, so, and also another thing is to check the PennDOT's website, and it'll give you a list of all the current projects.
Yeah.
So I think we're scheduled for something like 2025 for Chestnut Tree Road. That's the only active project we have.
Yeah, Chestnut Tree's another road that
Yeah.
can use, and Creek Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment.
I'm sorry, I got one more thing to ask. In the workshop pages from last week, is there something about a Parks and Rec meeting tomorrow or plan, I don't know, some kind of a meeting tomorrow? Do you know anything about that?
Yes.
I mean, has that changed?
No, I think it is tomorrow, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, the 15th,
Okay.
15th tomorrow, yep,
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have anybody to set up sewer for that?
It's the truck moving the wall. They have to turn the TV on and hit start. Every single meeting from now on is available by Zoom. We just ask that by noon of the day of the meeting, someone reaches out, and if that's the case, we will actually leave a message for the board to tell them to, turn on the TV and just hit start. I've grabbed several people and asked them if they could figure it out. I said nothing, and they've successfully done it, so.
Okay. If there's no other comments, we do have some upcoming meetings before I adjourn the meeting. Parks and Rec tomorrow, Planning Commission September 22nd. We're going to have our first town hall meeting on October 4th here. October 5th will be the next Board of Supervisors workshop meeting with our budget workshop prior to that, and then on the 12th of October is the next regular supervisors meeting.
And just to call out, the town hall meeting will start at 6 o'clock in this room. I have a question.
Are we going to be allowed to ask a question at the town hall meeting, or is it comment only?
Ask questions. It's a discussion. It's not a binding meeting, but it's just a conversation. And people do want to hear from them.
Okay.
It will be also on Zoom, but there's not going to be any questions taken from Zoom. It'll be listen only, just because it might be a little complicated going back and forth. Ready Chesco, our notifications are going out. We are going to be pushing the notifications of the town hall starting this week and then every single week up to it. And we will be legally advertising it later this month as required, but we're going to be pushing it on social media. And,
I guess, yeah, for Ready Chesco, it's a service provided by Chester County. So if you go to readychesco.com or whatever, it gives you all the instructions. Then you can just select Lambert Township, the borough, whatever you like, and just be pop-up messages you'll get and tell you about the reminder of the Lambert Township meetings.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt again. What does not finding me? Like, you're not being, I don't know.
Sure. I'm not.
What does non-finding?
Yeah, this is a conversation, so I'm not going to be in the position, especially if it's just one supervisor or even two, where we can just commit the township to something. This is a discussion, and then, if you're raising an issue that we need to take to the next level, that's what we do.
Okay, thank you.
so we got
And I'm sorry if I sound like I'm yelling, I'm not sure if I get heard, so I apologize if you think I'm yelling.
You're okay, Karen.
All right, if there's nothing else? Have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everybody.